off work, and today I need to bleed the brakes on my Honda Civic 2016 touring package. So I'm going to show you guys how I do it using a Motive power bleeder. So this is my Motive power bleeder right over here, and we're going to use .4 brake fluid. You can use .3 or .4, it's interchangeable. That's my stuff. So let's get this car up on 4 jack stands and get all the wheels off. This is my opportunity to also rotate the tires as well. Okay, so we got the whole car up on jack stands. Now what we need to do is undo this front strut brace. You might not have this on yours, but since we do and it's in the way of the brake fluid reservoir, I gotta lift it up. Now we're gonna lift that up. This is the cover. This is the filter, or filter cap. So as you can see, the fluid is very brown and dirty and old, so it definitely needs to be changed. Don't know when's the last time it's been bled, so we definitely need to get this out. So I'm gonna get a suction device, and I'm gonna suck out all the old fluid from the reservoir. You can use a turkey baster or some kind of a suction, like a needle, a syringe. We're running out of light here, so sorry about that. It sucks having to work on a Saturday. But anyway, I'm gonna just suck out all the old fluid here.
Did you get any?
No, because there's a cover on it. Okay, try it again. Here we go. All right, look how old this fluid looks. Nice and brown. This is a 50 ml syringe, so it is pretty slow. So now we need to bust out the Motive power bleeder, and I'll leave a link in the description on how to get one of these, but this is what we're going to use to bleed the brakes. The traditional sequence for bleeding brakes is the furthest one from the master cylinder, so like the rear passenger side, and then work your way up. But Honda has a specific sequence that we need to do because they have different style brake lines, and they have an electronic parking brake too. So we'll have to follow Honda's recommendation. So what we need to do is use my custom-made adapter here. This is a perfectly fit for a Honda Civic, or any Honda vehicle actually, and it's a special adapter, and I just use some hose clamps to clamp it in. Now I'm going to put this inside the brake reservoir and cover it so that there's no leaks. This needs to fit snug so that there's nothing pops out and leaks brake fluid everywhere. Here we go. 1 quart of .4 brake fluid. And then I'll put a second one just in case. So you never want this tank to run empty or dry. You want to make sure that there's always brake fluid in here, because otherwise you might be pumping air into the system. I'm going to pour it nice and slowly so that there's no air bubbles getting inside. Cap, and close it down. Very nice and tight, or nice and snug. You do not want this to come undone or come loose. There is a PSI gauge here, and you want to pump it up to about in between 10 and 15 PSI. I'm going to pump it to 12 PSI. So in order to do that, you just got to push this piece, and as you do that, you can start to see fluid going through. You'll see the fluid going through the actual lines. Now I've gotten it to about 12 to 13 PSI. Let's check if the pressure holds. If it doesn't hold, you have a leak somewhere. As you can see, the needle is right in between 12 and 13 PSI. So we are in the zone here, and I'm gonna just make sure and monitor it every few minutes. If it drops a little, that's okay. I can always pump it back up and keep the same PSI. So the Motive Power Bleeder has this bottle that you can use. It comes with a tube that you'll connect to the bleeder valve, and also this line that you can just hook up here or anywhere so that this bottle doesn't tip over. I'm not going to use that necessarily, but I do want to use this hose here. And then the bottle is going to be down here so that gravity can do its thing. Come on over here and I'll show you where the bleeder valve is in this front brake, all the way in. Okay, so here's the bleeder valve. You're going to remove this cap. It's a black rubber cap. Don't forget to put it back on later. You need to take a 10mm wrench and you're going to place it in. Put this on. And then you're going to crack open the bleeder valve. Okay, broke it loose. Now you can see, if I stop the flow, you can see the fluid is clear, which is nice. So I'm gonna keep on bleeding. I'm gonna go ahead and crack open this bleeder valve, and I'm only doing a quarter turn. I don't want this to go too quickly. As you can see, it's slowly filling up the bottle. You're looking for any air bubbles in the tubing. So right now, the good news is I don't see any air bubbles, but I also don't have a lot of light. So this is not ideal to do this at night. So for Honda, the sequence that you need to do is front driver side first, then front passenger side, and then you're gonna do the rear passenger side and then the rear driver side. Got a little bit. Yeah, you can see a lot of those air bubbles there and dirty fluid. A lot of the dirty fluid's coming out. I'm gonna close it here, tighten it up. Once you've tightened up the bleeder valve, slowly release the tubing from the valve and then let gravity do its thing. Tighten up that bleeder valve, and then I'm gonna put the black cap back on. Now we're gonna go to the passenger front, okay? Look how much brake fluid I drained out. It's all very black. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this and empty it. Okay, so our pressure dropped slightly, so I'm gonna pump it back up to 12 PSI again. Okay, the air bubble stopped. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close up the valve now, okay? Here we go. Closing the valve. So I took out about this much fluid on the front passenger side brake caliper. Okay, so the rear valve is right over here. So it's next to this nut. You're gonna pull out the rubber grommet again, like so. So when you're at the rear brake caliper, make sure you have the parking brake undone. Otherwise it has a hard time bleeding the fluid out. Right, okay, cracked it open. Waiting for the fluid to come out. All right, I see it coming. Slowly moving. Going, back to Cali. All right, so I closed up that valve. We took about this much out of the rear driver's side before I saw it start to clear up. So now that we've bled each side, we have to do it again. But before we do that, I'm going to activate the electronic parking brake 5 times. Make sure you loosen the cap at the loosen the cap at the brake bleeder, not at the reservoir. If you loosen it here, it's gonna explode. So you loosen it at the Motive brake bleeder point. Do it nice and slow, and then when you do it, you're gonna notice all this fluid's gonna back up. Slowly. There you go. See all this fluid's coming back into the system. start the car, and then we're gonna engage the parking brake and disengage it 5 times. There's 1. There's 2. So once you've disengaged it 5 times, go ahead and pump the brakes 5 times to the floor. 1. We're gonna repeat the process one last time. We should see more air bubbles because the parking brake, the electronic parking brake might have had some in the lines that we didn't get to. All right, welcome back. So I finished rebleeding the whole entire system again, and we got a little bit more air bubbles out, and now all the fluid is fresh and clean. So we did a total of 2 bleeds so far. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the pressure here. All right, it is slightly overfilled, so you're going to have to suck out a little bit of fluid. Now we are at the right level. Oh, I probably should have cleaned this off too. All this old gunk here. Don't want it to get in the fresh brake fluid that we have in the system. Filter back on. This one just plops in place. Okay. That screen filter needs to go back on, then you put your cap back on. So in summary, how you do this job is the main sequence of bleeding the brakes, starting at the front driver side, front passenger side, then the rear passenger side, and then the rear driver side. Then you gotta engage the parking brake 5 times and then rebleed the system again. That's how you properly do it. You'll need about 2 quarts of .3 or .4 fluid, and you can use either as long as you don't mix them. After this, I'm gonna go ahead and test drive the car and make sure the brakes work correctly. So we'll get back to you in a second and drive the car and see if there's any issues. Hopefully not. All right, so I put the wheels back on in the car. Now you need to turn the car on, go to your settings. So settings is over here. And then we're gonna go to vehicle, go to maintenance info, and then select your reset items. So we're gonna reset tire rotation, because we just did that today. It's maintenance info again, select reset items, and then do brake fluid. Reset brake fluid, perfect. So now you press OK, and you have reset your maintenance reminders. And you can only do this while you're parked, you can't do this while you're driving. So let's go ahead and go for a drive, and I'll let you guys know what I feel, any difference. Ooh. So the brake pedal feels much more sensitive and firmer, so that's a good thing. You have to get used to it. It's a little bit less spongy. It's not as spongy anymore, which is a good feeling. It feels more confidence inspiring when you're trying to brake. Let's come into this here. Yeah, definitely more responsive, the brake pedal. So overall, I'm very happy with the brake job. We saved some money and we did the job right. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if you like this kind of content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Good night.